Sports360AZ.com and AZCentralSports.com. And as we said, the day after the NBA draft, what a day it was for a lot of teams, and most notably for our hometown Phoenix Suns, whose general manager, Ryan McDonough, joins us now. And there's a lot of ground to cover, Ryan. And first of all, I appreciate your time, because anybody that thinks that it all kind of slows down now for a GM in the NBA is fooling themselves. But let's start with the Josh Jackson pick, which everybody in the NBA is excited about for your club. And the thing I'm excited most of all is how good a defender he is. I don't know how much that came up with the media that attended last night, but I'm a defense guy, and I'm certain that you looked at that's one of the things I know that you're most excited about in regards to Josh Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. We thought Josh was the best perimeter defender in the draft, and I made a joke last night that people say, well, he's the best two-way player in the draft, and I said, okay, I think the game's played two-way, so that really means he's just the best player overall. Period. So we're really high on Josh's potential. I think defensively, he's got very quick feet for a 6'8" guy. He's got pretty good length, but I think as importantly, if not more importantly, he's got some aggressiveness and some tenacity about him defensively. He's willing to take on any challenge, and we think he's a perfect fit for our young core. In terms of some of the team needs we identified at the end of this past season. We were ranked 28th defensively with our young team, so we need to keep improving on that end, and I think Josh will certainly help that. But we also needed guys who move without the ball, and guys who can make plays. And I think one of the most underrated aspects of Josh's game offensively is his passing ability. So we're really excited with the entire package, and we think of all the players in the draft. What Josh brings in terms of his skill set and also in terms of his mentality and toughness is exactly what we need, and we think he's the perfect fit for us coming out of the 2017 draft.
I want to get one other thought about Jackson, and then we'll move on to the players you took in the second round. The ESPN commentators, in talking about Jackson, kind of made that point that he plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But I was very impressed, Ryan, and it's not fair to judge somebody on like a 2-minute interview, but he seems very mature for his age, very composed, has a goal in mind, and if he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, he keeps those emotions very much under control. Is that what you saw of him when you were scouting him?
Absolutely, yeah. I totally agree with that statement that he does play with a chip on his shoulder. But I think Devin Booker does too. In a different way. And most of the great players I've been around, and most of the great players I've observed, do have that chip. Kevin Garnett had it when I was with him with the Boston Celtics. Just watching from afar, a guy like Draymond Green certainly has it. So. Most of the great players, especially the guys with some grit and some toughness, and that's certainly how I describe Josh. They have it, and they think every time they step onto the floor that they're able to impose their will on the game, and that nobody's going to outwork them and nobody's going to out-tough them. So I think you're absolutely right about it. I think that'll be a good motivating factor for Josh. He was the fourth pick, obviously coming to us here in Phoenix. But I think if you asked him, he feels like he should have been the number one pick, and set out to prove that the three teams that passed on him made a mistake. And if you do look at his history, there were times, especially as recently as last year, where he was widely considered the best player in his class. He was the number one rated consensus player coming out of high school a year ago. So, I think there's a reason for that. But, more importantly, we just think he's a terrific fit for the Suns and brings exactly what we need, both on the floor but also off the court in terms of the locker room and practices. And we think it'll be a great addition to the young team we're trying to build here in Phoenix.
Ryan McDonough, Suns general manager, joins us on the Brad Sesmat Show. Jeff Munn for Brad. Let's look to the second round. Davon Reed is described as a player who can do a little bit of everything. And you just talked about the fact that Jackson is described by a lot of people as a great two-way player. Well, in reading the assessment on Davon Reed, he kind of sounds the same way, Ryan.
Yeah, Davon's very solid. Davon, he's 6'5", very well put together guy with a 7-foot wingspan. So obviously that's a pretty exceptional length for a shooting guard. He was an all-ACC defensive player And Jeff, you know how tough that conference is. You know, with
Yep.
some of the elite offensive talent. You know, in the ACC, you're playing a good team. You're guarding, you know, the opponent's best perimeter player, maybe just their best player, period, every night. Which you know, in that conference turns out to be a guy who's almost certainly going to end up in the NBA. So, you know, Davon, you know, the more we studied him, you know, the more he grew on us. He's not a flashy guy. He didn't put up huge scoring numbers. But he is able to defend his position at a high level. He's another guy who brings us toughness and grit. You know, as I mentioned, we identified upgrading our defense and upgrading our toughness as two of our main priorities. But he also shoots the ball at a very high level. He shot 40% from the three-point line. And, you know, we had him in for two separate group workouts here in Phoenix during the pre-draft process, and he really stroked the ball well from the NBA three-point line. So we think his shot will translate very well, and you know, that's kind of in vogue right now. That's what every team is looking for, is a guy who's able to defend his position at a high level and make open spot-up three-point shots, and we think Davon certainly has the ability to do both of those things and more on the court.
Let me get a quick thought from you too, Ryan, about Alec Peters, and I've got some other things I want to get to. The main question I've got on Alec, and I'm sure it came up last night, he had the stress fracture in his right leg in February. Obviously, that's coming along. Otherwise, you wouldn't have invested a draft pick in him. But where is he in relation to when things open up in training camp in October?
Yeah, we got Alec Peters, power forward from Valparaiso, with the 54th pick last night. And, you know, Jeff, I think he would have been drafted a lot higher if he were healthy and if he were able to go through the process, through the pre-draft process. You mentioned the foot injury. You know, we met with him in Chicago, and I think at that time he was at least in a walking boot, maybe even on crutches. That was about a month and a half ago at the pre-draft combine. You know, since then he's gotten out of the boot, he's gotten off the crutches, and is able to, you know, has been able to do some spot shooting. So, you know, all the medical information we have is that the recovery is going very well. I think he's recently been cleared to start doing cardio work and work again on the floor. You know, so I think it's unlikely that he'll play in summer league, even if he's able to. I don't think we'd rush him back. I think that's probably too soon. But we're anticipating him to be completely healthy and make a full recovery sometime, you know, probably in August or September. And we think he'll be a full go for training camp this fall, you know, when we get together again in late September.
Ryan McDonough, Suns general manager, joining us on the Brad Sesmat Show. Okay, Jason Tatum goes to the Celtics at 3 yesterday. As soon as that pick was announced, how many phone calls, I don't expect you to give away secrets, but how often was your phone ringing in the time in between Boston's selection of Tatum and your selection of Josh Jackson?
So you know, it's funny, Jeff. Actually, it wasn't ringing a lot then. It rang a whole lot before the draft and leading up to the draft. And you know, I think what happens is, you know, teams are trying to gauge who's going to be there. And you know, I think, yeah, we obviously try to keep what we're doing as secret as possible and not give other teams a great feel for it. You know, so we don't want to give anybody the ability to potentially trade up ahead of us to get a guy we really like, or take a guy we really like and then try to shake us down for another player pick or something like that. So it rang a lot in advance of the draft. As we got closer and closer to the start of the draft last night, and you know, it seemed more and more like Jason Tatum was going to be Boston's guy at 3. I think teams backed off a little bit, realizing that you know, the value of the pick to us when you know, you never know for sure, but when we thought Josh Jackson was going to be there at 4, you know, the value to us got even higher at that point. So there were a lot of calls and activities trying to get to the pick. You know, probably Monday through Wednesday, even into the morning yesterday on Thursday, and then as we got closer to the draft. Maybe it was my tone, maybe it was just you know, how comfortable we were with Josh, but you know, there weren't actually a ton of calls on the draft because at that point we were very comfortable keeping the pick at 4, and we were excited because we thought we got the player that, you know, of everyone in the whole draft fit our team and our roster the best.
One thing that you cannot control, and I know you'd love to be able to, is all the speculation. And prior to the draft, a rumor got out that you had a deal in place involving Eric Bledsoe going to Denver. It was out there on Twitter. About 5 minutes later, it got pulled back. And as I said, there's nothing a general manager can do about the media running with something, but you're left with something in your lap in terms of dealing with Eric Bledsoe and how he feels after these stories kind of come out. Have you had a chance to talk to him since last night?
No, I haven't. You know, and Eric's name's been in a bunch of trade rumors, and you know, Eric has been with us 4 years now. I think he was the first player I acquired. You know, and after my group was hired in Phoenix 4 years ago, and he's been here the whole time. And you know, we've done a contract extension with him. He's obviously done extremely well on the floor. So, you know, that's part of the deal. Eric's been through this enough now where he just, I think, ignores it and moves on. You know, I'll just say this: there was nothing to that rumor at all. I'm not sure where it came from or why it got out there. But you know, I got a funny story for you, Jeff. So yesterday, Robert Sarver and I went downstairs, and we were going to meet with Coach Watson before the draft. You know, just kind of go over everything one more time and who we liked, and go over our final draft board. And you know, we have a lot of our guys in Phoenix working out this time of year, which is, I think, pretty unique and unusual, you know, for an NBA team to have, you know, 5 to 10 roster players in late June working out. So, you know, a couple of the guys in our locker room were Dragan Bender and Eric Bledsoe, and those guys were on their phones. So, you know, I went over to them and said, hey, you know, I heard rumors you guys are getting traded. You know, where are you going? You know, can you tell me anything? And, you know, so they laughed about it. So anyways, we keep it light. You know, obviously there was a lot out there, a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, and, you know, like I told those guys and their agents, you know, if you ever were to get traded, you hear it from me, you hear it from us first. Don't pay any attention to all the speculation, all the noise. You know, because if you did, I think every player in the league would have been traded 2 or 3 times over the past year, if not even over the past week.
It probably doesn't hurt, too, to have all those players working out, that you've got a practice court where the AC's running this time of year. That's probably a good reason for them to get inside.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's a credit to our core, especially our young core, that the guys are here. Like you said, I don't think it's because they enjoy the climate this time of year. It's because, you know, they're committed to getting better, they're committed to improving, and because, you know, Coach Watson and his staff have done a great job creating a culture in an environment that's conducive to work, and, you know, where the guys want to be around. And, you know, as I mentioned, it's pretty rare. I mean, we've had up to 10 roster players in at different times throughout the summer, and honestly, Jeff, I think if you talk to some of the other 29 teams, they might have, you know, 2 or 3 guys. They might not have any guys in this time of year. So, you know, we're excited about our group. We're excited about our young core. But yeah, as you mentioned, I don't think the reason they're in Phoenix is so they can, you know, go for long walks outside in late June.
No, I agree with you. It's very impressive that they're all working out at this time of year. Last question. I got about 30 seconds. We can anticipate seeing Josh Jackson in the summer league.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you'll see Josh Jackson this afternoon in Phoenix. But yeah, he's you know, he's fully healthy. You know, we worked him out in the pre-draft process. So he's you know, as we speak, he's probably en route to Phoenix. He'll do a press conference kind of the middle of this afternoon, and then, you know, I have some events here around the city, you know, tonight and tomorrow morning. But yeah, Josh is, you know, fully be on board for Summer League, as will Davon Reed. And, you know, I think Alec Peters will be there. But as I mentioned, due to the rehab coming off the injury, he will not be able to play. And fans will get to see the Summer League on a variety of networks, ESPN, NBA TV, and so on. Ryan, congratulations. There's a lot of hard work that's put in by a lot of people who never get the credit, and I know you're very proud of your staff. So congratulations to all of you on a terrific draft, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road, and especially at the press conference this afternoon. Thanks for being with us. No, we certainly appreciate that. And you mentioned the scouting staff. Those guys, some of them had early flights this morning to start going for next year. So we're already on to the 2018 draft. And, you know, it's a group effort, but we're really excited about the way it turned out. And we certainly appreciate you having me on today.